All right, let's dive into a really fascinating design feature of your inner ear. We're going to explore why the variability in how our balanced neurons fire isn't just random noise, it's actually a critical part of the system's design. And remember, everything we're going to talk about is grounded in that fantastic review article, The Physiology of the Vestibular System. Let's get into it. So here's a really crucial concept for your clinical practice. You've got to stop thinking of the vestibular nerve as just one single information highway. Instead, picture it as parallel streams of traffic, where each lane is optimized for a totally different purpose. Getting this idea is absolutely fundamental to building that deep clinical intuition for why our test results can sometimes seem to completely contradict each other. And that brings us right to our central clinical puzzle for today. I mean, we've all seen this, right? A patient comes in, you do a video head impulse test, a V-hit, and it's totally normal. But then their caloric responses are clearly abnormal, maybe even absent. So what's the deal? Is this a contradiction, a testing mistake, or is the physiology telling us something much more specific? Well, by the end of this explainer, you're going to see it as a crystal clear window into the underlying problem. To solve this puzzle, we first need to meet the two main characters in our story today, the regular and the irregular afferent neurons. These are two totally distinct groups of reporters inside the vestibular nerve, and believe me, they each have a very different job to do. Okay, and this diagram just shows their different personalities perfectly. Look on the left, in blue, the regular afferent. It fires like a metronome, just a steady, predictable rhythm. But then on the right, in orange, you've got the irregular afferent. It's way more variable, firing in these energetic bursts. Now, this isn't messy, it's actually primed for action. And this difference is literally hardwired into the neuroanatomy. Now, we can actually put a number on this difference using a metric called the coefficient of variation, or CV. It's basically just a measure of how much the time varies between each nerve firing or each spike. So a low CV means very little variability, and that defines a regular afferent. A high CV with tons of variability, well, that's your irregular afferent. The key thing to get is that this isn't just random noise. It's a defining characteristic. And I really want to drive this point home. This is not random chance. This is a deliberate design, hardwired directly into the anatomy of the inner ear. So, as we've just seen, the wiring itself is what defines the signal. The specific way a neuron connects to a specific type of hair cell in a specific location is everything. The regular afferents tend to connect to type I hair cells out in the periphery, while those bursty, irregular afferents connect to type I hair cells right in the central zone. And this illustration just shows the difference beautifully. On the right, you've got the pretty standard cylindrical type 2 hair cell with its simple little bouton nerve endings. But now look at the left. The type 1 hair cell has this really unique flask-like shape, and it's almost completely swallowed up by this massive nerve terminal called a calyx. This special connection, this calyx, is the secret to the irregular afferent's amazing abilities. You see, this unique calyx synapse creates something called the calyx paradox. It doesn't just rely on standard, slow chemical transmission. It has a second, incredibly fast, almost electrical-like way of transmitting a signal. This dual mechanism allows for extremely rapid, high-precision signaling, making it incredibly sensitive to the very first instant that motion begins. So that leads to a really important question, right? Why go to all this biological trouble? Why does the vestibular system need two completely different ways of encoding motion? Well, it's because they have two totally different jobs. I want you to think of the regular afferents as the system's documentary reporters. They provide a stable, constant, moment-to-moment account of your head's position and any slow, ongoing movements. They're super reliable and don't get distracted by noise. The irregular afferents, though, they're the emergency broadcast system. They have incredibly high sensitivity, or gain, and their one and only job is to scream, hey, something just changed, and it changed fast. The absolute instant a rapid movement happens. And the source material just sums this up perfectly. These two systems are totally complementary. You absolutely need that steady, low-frequency signal from the regular guys to know where you are in space, and you need that high-frequency alert from the irregulars to react to sudden changes. It's only together that they provide a complete picture. Okay, let's bring all this biology back to the clinic and finally solve our puzzle. Here's the key insight. Our clinical tests are not one size fits all. Each test, depending on the kind of stimulus it uses, is actually tuned to listen preferentially to one of these reporters over the other. And this table right here, this is the clinical payoff. Just look at those frequency domains. Caloric testing, it's an extremely low-frequency stimulus. It's a slow, sustained change, which is perfectly suited to test our documentary reporters, the regular afferents. But the V-hit? That's a high-frequency, super-fast impulse. It is specifically designed to interrogate our emergency broadcast system, those highly sensitive irregular afferents. They're testing different things. So here's the bottom line, the most crucial point. Test dissociations are not contradictions. They are physiological windows. When you see a normal V-hit but an abnormal caloric, it strongly suggests a lesion has selectively damaged that low-frequency regular afferent pathway while sparing the high-frequency irregular pathway. It's a precise neuroanatomical clue staring you right in the face. So let's just quickly summarize the 3 big takeaways. First, regular and irregular afferents are parallel channels, each handling different timescales of motion. Second, the anatomy is the function. Where a neuron connects and what it connects to determines how it fires. And finally, and most importantly for us, test associations like V-hit versus calorics are your guide to pinpointing which of these parallel pathways might be in trouble. So we've now covered these amazing and complementary coding strategies. I hope you'll join me in our next explainer, video 11, where we'll get into frequency response and bode analysis. We're going to translate these very concepts into direct clinical intuition, explaining exactly why the same vestibular system can look perfectly normal on one test, but impaired on another, based only on the frequency of the stimulus we use. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. To explore more content just like this, please feel free to visit our website,